That tub of ice cream sitting in your freezer right now, the one you re-saving for Christmas dessert? Planning to scoop out for your kids, your guests, or your grandchildren? Feels safe, familiar, comforting? Ice cream is supposed to be simple. Cream, sugar, milk, maybe vanilla, something joyful you serve without a second thought. But what if that ice cream isn't actually ice cream? What if it's a frozen product held together by industrial gums, bulked up with air, sweetened with corn syrup, and flavored with chemicals that have never been near real vanilla? What if some of the brands people trust most at Christmas have quietly replaced real dairy with engineered substitutes while keeping the same nostalgic packaging? This holiday season, we're exposing 5 ice cream brands that no longer deserve a place on your table, and revealing 2 that still make ice cream the way it's supposed to be made. Because Christmas dessert should be sweet for the right reasons, not built on deception hiding in your freezer. Worst number 1 Breyers for more than a century. Breyers stood for everything Americans believed ice cream should be. Simple, honest, cream, sugar, and milk. The Breyers pledge printed proudly on every carton promised exactly that. And generations of families trusted it without hesitation. This was the ice cream grandparents served at holidays, the brand parents bought without reading labels, the name that felt safe simply because it had always been there. That trust is exactly what makes Breyers' transformation so disturbing. In 2013, the FDA ruled that Breyers could no longer legally call its product ice cream. The reason was simple and damning. Real ice cream must contain at least 10% milk fat. And Breyers had reduced the cream so aggressively that it no longer met the legal definition. From that point on, many Breyers products were quietly relabeled as frozen dairy dessert. Same carton, same branding. Completely different product. What replaced the cream tells the real story? Whey maltodextrin, carabine gum, gar gum, carrageenan, cellulose gum, mono, and diglycerides. A long list of stabilizers and thickeners designed to imitate creaminess without actually using cream. These are not small additions. They are structural components, engineering texture that dairy fat used to provide naturally. The vanilla flavor is where the deception becomes impossible to ignore. Breyers' natural vanilla flavor does not guarantee vanilla beans. Under FDA rules, natural flavor can come from sources like wood pulp byproducts or even castoreum, a secretion from beaver glands. Whatever the source, it is not the warm, complex flavor of real vanilla beans steeped in cream. You can see the difference immediately. Let Breyers sit out for a few minutes. Real ice cream melts into cream. Breyers melts into a foamy, oddly elastic substance that doesn't behave like dairy because it isn't. Scoop it and feel the texture slightly gummy, almost chewy. That sensation doesn't exist in real ice cream. It exists in products held together by hydrocolloid gums. What makes this especially troubling at Christmas is context. This is the brand families buy because of tradition. The grandmother serving Breyers because her mother did. The parent grabbing it for a holiday party because the pledge feels trustworthy. They believe they're serving the same ice cream they grew up with, when in reality, they are reserving a highly engineered frozen dessert that legally cannot be called ice cream. Breyers didn't just cut corners. It kept the promise printed on the box while quietly breaking it in the ingredients. And during the holidays, when food is about trust, memory, and care, that betrayal matters more than ever. Worst number 2, idealized Dreyer's for years. Getty's, known as Dreyer's on the West Coast, has positioned itself as the smarter, slightly more premium choice in the freezer aisle. The words grand and slow churned suggest care, technique, and quality. It's the brand families reach for when they want something better than basic for Christmas dessert, without paying super premium prices. The marketing implies craftsmanship. The reality is something very different. At its core, Edie's uses nearly the same ingredient strategy as Breyers. Reduced cream, corn syrup, whey, multiple gums like gar, carabine, and carrageenan, mono, and diglycerides, artificial flavoring. This is not ice cream built on dairy richness. It's a formulation engineered to mimic ice cream while using less of the expensive ingredients that actually make ice cream ice cream. The centerpiece of Edie's deception is the slow, churned process. The name suggests a traditional, careful method that improves texture. What it actually does is introduce far more air into the product. Ice cream is sold by volume, not by weight. Standard ice cream contains roughly 50% air, a level needed for scoopability. Premium ice creams keep that number often between 20 and 30%, so you get dense, rich scoops. Itty's slow-churned varieties can contain up to 70% air. You are literally paying for air. The brand markets this as a health benefit, pointing to lower fat and calorie counts. But those numbers are lower because there is less actual ice cream in the container. Less cream, less dairy, more air and water stabilized by gums. It's not healthier dessert, simply less dessert, sold at nearly the same price. You can see it immediately when you open a tub. The ice cream feels unnaturally light. Scoop it and notice how little resistance there is. Let it sit on the counter and watch how it melts not into cream, but into a bubbly foam. That foamy melt is the signature of excess air trapped in stabilizers, not rich dairy fat melting naturally. The flavor confirms it. Vanilla tastes thin and chemical. Chocolate tastes like sweetened cocoa powder rather than real chocolate depth. Strawberry tastes perfumed, not fruity. There's no complexity because complexity comes from cream egg yolks. And real ingredients things, Itty's minimize to make room for air. What makes Itty's especially problematic during the holidays is how it's used. Big tubs, crowd-pleasing flavors, reasonable price. It's the ice cream hosts by 4 Christmas dinners and parties without thinking twice. Parents and grandparents believe they're serving a generous, quality dessert, when in reality, they're serving a foam-heavy frozen dairy dessert engineered to look abundant. Itty's calls this innovation. In truth, it's shrinkflation disguised as technique. And at Christmas, when abundance and care matter, that kind of quiet substitution doesn't belong on the table. Worst number 3, Turkey Hill. Turkey Hill is a masterclass in how powerful branding can override common sense. The name alone evokes rolling Pennsylvania hills, small family dairies, and ice cream made the old-fashioned way. The packaging leans hard into rural Americana, suggesting simplicity, honesty, and tradition. For many shoppers, especially around Christmas, that imagery signals quality. Feels like the safe, wholesome choice you can serve without explanation. But the product inside the carton tells a very different story. Turkey Hill's original vanilla is not original in any meaningful sense. It follows the same modern cost-cut formula used by many industrial brands: reduced cream, corn syrup, whey, and a long list of gums and stabilizers designed to replace what dairy fat used to provide naturally. Gar gum, tarragum, carabine gum, cellulose gum, and carrageenan work together to create artificial structure and thickness. The result is a texture that looks creamy, but behaves unnaturally. The vanilla flavor exposes the deception further. The ingredient list includes both natural and artificial vanilla flavor, meaning lab-created flavoring is blended in to cut costs. This produces a harsh, one-dimensional sweetness instead of the warm, rounded complexity that comes from real vanilla beans infused in cream. The sweetness itself is overwhelming, driven by corn syrup rather than balanced sugar and dairy. You don't need a lab to spot the difference. Scoop Turkey Hill and notice how it cuts cleanly, leaving sharp edges instead of breaking naturally. That's gums at work. Let it sit out for a few minutes. Real ice cream melts into cream. Turkey Hill melts into a thick, gluey liquid that looks and behaves nothing like dairy. This is engineered structure holding on long after the ice crystals melt. The confusion deepens because Turkey Hill sells multiple product lines. The all-natural line uses cleaner ingredients and costs more, while the original recipe, the one most people buy, contains the most gums and corn syrup. Many consumers assume original means traditional and higher quality. In reality, it means cheapest formula. This isn't an accident, it's pricing psychology. Ownership explains the shift. Turkey Hill was once an independent Pennsylvania dairy. It was acquired by Kroger in the 1980s and gradually transformed into a mass-produced, private label-style product wrapped in heritage branding. The farm imagery stayed. The ingredients changed. At Christmas, this matters. Families serve Turkey Hill, believing the name guarantees farm-quality dairy. Grandparents buy it because it feels familiar. Hosts choose it because it looks wholesome. What they actually serving is an industrial frozen dessert that behaves like melted glue and tastes like corn syrup with vanilla perfume. Turkey Hill isn't the worst ice cream on the shelf, but it may be one of the most misleading. It proves that nostalgia can be engineered just as easily as texture. and that a farm on the carton doesn't mean a farm in the product. Worst number for Bluebell. For many people in the South, Bluebell isn't just ice cream, it's tradition. It's regional pride. It's the brand families serve at every holiday gathering because that's what we've always done. Blue. Bell's marketing leans heavily on the image of a small-town Texas creamery. Down-home values and ice cream made the right way. That emotional loyalty is powerful, especially at Christmas, when tradition matters most. But ingredients and history tell a harder truth. Take Bluebell's natural vanilla. Despite the name, the ingredient list includes 2 different forms of corn syrup, along with both natural and artificial vanilla flavor. That combination exists for one reason: cost control. Real ice cream relies on cream and sugar for flavor and texture. Bluebell replaces a portion of that with cheaper sweeteners and stabilizers like cellulose gum, gar gum, carrageenan, and carabine gum. The result is a dense, heavy product that feels thick but lacks the smooth, light richness of true premium ice cream. The flavor reflects that compromise. The vanilla tastes sharp and chemical rather than warm and rounded. The sweetness is aggressive and flat, driven by corn syrup instead of balanced dairy and sugar. The texture doesn't scoop cleanly or melt gracefully. It holds together in a way that feels unnatural, because gums are doing the work cream used to do. Ingredient shortcuts alone would be disappointing. But Bluebell's food safety history is what makes this brand especially troubling. In 2015, Bluebell products were linked to a listeria outbreak that killed 3 people and hospitalized many others. A CDC investigation found listeria contamination across multiple facilities and equipment, drains, and production areas. This wasn't a one-off accident. It was a systemic failure. What makes it worse is what happened before the outbreak became public. Internal testing showed positive listeria results years earlier, yet production continued. The company did not issue a full recall until after people were already sick and dying. When Bluebell returned to shelves in 2016, the marketing focused on nostalgia. We're back. It's Bluebell time, not on transparent explanations of how those deep safety failures were fixed. That silence matters because trust never reset. Families went right back to buying Bluebell out of loyalty, serving it at Christmas dinners without hesitation. Grandparents who grew up with the brand assume it's still what it used to be. Hosts choose it because guests expect it. Bluebell still contains real dairy, but it no longer earns blind trust. When a company combines ingredient compromise with a documented history of ignored contamination, loyalty becomes dangerous. At the holidays, when you're refeeding the people you care about, most tradition is not a substitute for safety. Bluebell proves a painful lesson. A familiar brand can feel comforting right up until the moment it fails you. Worst number 5, Halo Top. For the past decade, Halo Top has sold itself as a miracle. Guilt-free ice cream, full pint for only a few hundred calories. High protein, low sugar. The promise is seductive, especially during Christmas, when people want to enjoy dessert without undoing months of discipline. Halo Top positions itself as the responsible choice. The ice cream for people who care about their health, but Halo Top isn't healthier ice cream. It's not really ice cream at all. Look at the ingredient list, and the illusion falls apart. Skim milk comes first, not cream. The primary sweetener is erythritol, a sugar alcohol chosen because it adds sweetness without calories. Prebiotic fiber is added to inflate the nutrition label. Milk protein concentrate and industrial protein powder boosts the protein count. Vegetable glycerin, stevia, and multiple gums are layered in to replace what fat and sugar normally do. This isn't traditional ice cream made lighter. It's an engineered food product designed to hit macro targets. The consequences show up immediately in texture and taste. Halo Top freezes rock hard even after sitting out, because there isn't enough fat to soften naturally. You don't scoop it to chip at it. When it finally softens, the texture is icy and grainy, not smooth and creamy. That's the absence of butterfat. The sweetness tastes artificial and lingering, a signature of sugar alcohols rather than real sugar. There's no warmth, no depth, no richness, because those come from cream and egg yolks, not from protein powder and gums. Then there's digestion. Erythritol and added fibers are well known to cause bloating, gas, cramps, and diarrhea for many people. Halo Top encourages consumers to eat the entire pint because the calories look harmless. That's exactly when the side effects hit hardest. The result for some people isn't guilt-free enjoyment. It's Christmas evening spent uncomfortable and bloated, wondering why dessert didn't feel good at all. What makes Halo Top the worst brand on this list isn't that it uses unusual ingredients. It's why it uses them. Halo Top was designed from the start to exploit diet anxiety. It targets people who are trying to be careful, people afraid of indulgence, people who want permission to enjoy dessert without consequences. During the holidays, when guilt is already high, that message is powerful. Every other brand on this list started as real ice cream and degraded over time. Halo Top skipped that step entirely, was built as a workaround, a lab-designed substitute marketed as virtue. You're not buying ice cream that happens to be lighter. You're rebuying a protein supplement engineered to taste vaguely like ice cream and sold at a premium price. That's why Halo Top earns the top spot. Not because it's the most dangerous in a single bite, but because it represents the most calculated deception. It doesn't just replace cream with substitutes, it replaces honesty with health theater. And at Christmas, when dessert should be joyful and simple, that kind of manipulation doesn't belong on the table. Best number 6, Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams. Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams exists as proof that ice cream dosanti have to be reinvented, engineered, or manipulated to be special. Founded in Columbus, Ohio, Jenny's took the opposite path of the mass-market brands you've already seen. Instead of replacing cream with gums or sugar with syrups, the company doubled down on fundamentals: real cream, real milk, real sugar, and real flavor sources. Open a pint of Jenny's, and the difference is immediate. The color is honest, not artificially bright or chalky. In vanilla flavors, you can see actual vanilla bean specks distributed throughout the ice cream. That visual alone tells you something important. This flavor came from beans, not from a lab. When you scoop it, there's resistance, not stiffness, but density. That density doesn't come from stabilizers or added fiber. It comes from proper butterfat levels and minimal air incorporation. Let it sit on the counter for a few minutes and watch them melt. Jenny's doesn't foam, it doesn't turn gluey. It melts cleanly into cream, exactly the way ice cream should. That behavior is the simplest test of ingredient honesty. No gums are holding artificial structure. No emulsifiers are forcing texture. It's just frozen dairy returning to liquid dairy. The flavor is where Jenny's truly separates itself. Vanilla tastes warm and rounded with depth that lingers naturally instead of snapping sharp and sweet. Fruit flavors taste like fruit, not syrup. Chocolate tastes rich and complex, not like sweetened cocoa powder. That complexity comes from using actual ingredients and letting them do the work, rather than forcing a result with additives. Jenny's also publishes complete ingredient lists and sourcing information. There's no ambiguity, no hiding behind vague terms, and no nutritional sleight of hand. You know what you're eating, and that transparency matters especially at Christmas, when food is shared across generations. Yes, Jenny's costs more. It's often $12 to $14 per pint. But compare what you're buying. Real cream from well-managed dairies, real vanilla beans, small batch production, no corn syrup, no gums, no artificial flavoring. That price reflects quality, not marketing overhead. Jenny's isn't everyday ice cream. It's occasion ice cream. The kind you serve when dessert is meant to be memorable, not just sweet. At Christmas, when you want to offer something that actually honors the people around your table, Jenny's delivers what most brands only pretend to sell: real ice cream made with care. Best number 7, Haagen-Dazs. Haagen-Dazs proves something the modern ice cream industry seems desperate to forget. You don't need innovation, gimmicks, or engineering to make great ice cream. You need restraint. Since the 1960s, Haagen-Dazs has built its reputation on doing less. Not more, fewer ingredients, fewer shortcuts, and fewer excuses. Look at their classic vanilla, and you'll see why it matters. Cream, milk, sugar, egg yolks, vanilla extract. That's it. It's no corn syrup, no gums, no stabilizers, no artificial flavoring, no vague natural flavors. Just the same ingredients that defined ice cream, long before marketing departments got involved. While other brands were quietly replacing dairy fat with thickeners and air, Haagen-Dazs simply refused to play that game. The difference shows up immediately when you scoop it. There's resistance. Real resistance. You have to apply pressure, because this is dense ice cream with high butterfat content and minimal air. That density isn't heaviness, it's richness. Premium ice cream should feel substantial because cream is substantial. When you let it sit, it softens naturally instead of turning foamy or gluey. Melted Haagen-Dazs looks like cream because it is cream. Flavor tells the same story. The vanilla isn't loud or artificial. It's warm, rounded, and complex, with depth from egg yolks and real vanilla extract. The sweetness is balanced, not aggressive, because it comes from real sugar interacting with dairy fat, not from corn syrup spikes. Chocolate flavors taste like chocolate, not sugar with cocoa coloring. Nothing feels rushed or manipulated. What makes Haagen-Dazs especially important in this list is scale. This isn't a tiny artisanal producer selling ice cream for special occasions only. It's a large, mainstream brand currently owned by a major corporation that has still resisted the cost-cutting shortcuts that destroyed Breyers, Turkey Hill, and others. That restraint is rare. It proves that maintaining standards at scale is possible if a company chooses integrity over margin expansion. At around $6 to $7 per pint, Haagen-Dazs costs more than budget brands, but far less than ultra-premium options. And unlike premium products that justify price with air marketing or diet claims, this price buys actual ingredients. You're paying for cream, eggs, and real flavor, not for engineering tricks. At Christmas, that matters. When you serve Haagen-Dazs, you don't need to explain it. You don't need to apologize for ingredients or justify labels. You're serving ice cream that still earns the name. In a holiday season crowded with substitutions and shortcuts, Haagen-Dazs stands as a reminder that doing it right never went out of style. Ice cream should be the easiest choice at Christmas. Something simple, joyful, and safe to serve the people you love most. But what you've seen today proves how far the industry has drifted from that idea. Brands built on trust quietly replaced cream with gums, sugar with syrups, and honesty with marketing while keeping the same nostalgic packaging that makes you feel safe. This isn't about being perfect or never indulging. It's about knowing what you're actually serving. When you choose ice cream made from real cream, real sugar, and real ingredients, you're choosing quality over shortcuts, transparency over manipulation, and tradition that still means something. So before the holiday plates come out, go check your freezer. If what's inside relies on air, gums, protein powder, or diet guilt to justify itself, it doesn't belong on your Christmas table. Choose the brands that still respect the craft. Serve dessert with confidence, not questions. Because Christmas memories should be sweet for the right reasons, and real ice cream still exists if you're willing to demand it.